Ladies and gentlemen, Daemon Hellstorm might be insane for PvE. Take a look at this stage 9 near one-shot of Kang with an obelisk. Now, it does take a little bit of practice to get the rotation right, but a 45-second phase 1 is pretty insane for a level 7 character. I don't want to do this full run here against Kang. We're just going to play out a little bit more of the attacks, but as you saw, he can really crank out the damage. Now, we're unfortunately going to get stuck in another round of this nonsense, but once we get out, we should be good. Probably should have attacked him here. I just really did not want to get hit by that stupid thing. Alright, that took a minute unfortunately, but now we can still take a gaze at the damage. And yeah, it does not disappoint. Easy 8+ bars on Kang after the damage buff gets added. Haven't missed a single proc. Oh, he's doing more than 8 bars of damage for sure. Come over here so I can kill you. Oh wow, I didn't even miss that one despite getting guard broken. That's crazy. So he can easily do the 100-second challenge with just an obelisk. And I didn't miss a single proc despite being, I'd say, an average proc player and delaying his skills at times, you know, inexplicably. So this is pretty impressive. I don't want to overhype him. He's not actually needed for any content. So this is where kind of the meta heads get involved. And they're like, oh, well, he's trash because he's not needed for any content. But I can't say he's trash if he's putting out that much damage at level 70, right? Like, obviously we know he can go to 80. Obviously we know he can go to tier 4. But just the value of being able to put out that much damage at 70 with just a proc. Now, it's a very nice proc. Don't get me wrong. Crit damage, fire damage, 200 proc. Very nice roll. The rest of the build's pretty straightforward. I don't even have all of the Uru awakened or amplified. We have stage 12 overdrive. We have his 4-star artifact that I believe was given for free at some point during some login event. I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But yeah, we're ranked 480. And I want to go through the skill rotation before we get back into some more content, because he does really crank out the damage. Now, his 6th skill is instantly cancelable with Satana. We know his awakening skill is instantly cancelable. His 2nd skill, where the tridents circle him and then, you know, throw themselves at enemies, also instantly cancelable. You want to pause a little bit on 4 for him to dive up. Just a little bit. You don't have to wait that long. But you want to wait for him to dive up before you go into another skill, because if you instant cancel the 4, here's what happens. Nothing. That's right. Nothing happens. And then with the 3rd skill, you also want to wait a little bit, because if you instant cancel the 3, you get nothing. But if you wait a little bit, you get all of that flame damage on the ground that is residual. So you have a slight delay on 4, a slight delay on 3, and this is what it looks like. 2, 4, 3, 5. And you end up getting a cool 120 hits. I'm still practicing it, so it's not always 120 hits exactly, but it's somewhere north of 110, just shy of 120, and that is before we include the 6th skill. With the 6, it would be like this. You're going to get north of 150 hits, I believe. Yeah, you're going to get 160. So really, really nice rotation, very smooth, very proc friendly despite a little bit of a delay on 4 and a little bit of a delay on 3. And yeah, it's a really weird situation where it kind of showcases that the devs know how to make characters good, because if you look at his kit, there's nothing I can point to that's like, yeah, that's why he's really good. You know, there's no big numbers or crazy amounts that jump out at you. There's no shenanigans going on under the hood. I mean, there have to be shenanigans going on under the hood, because by all intents and purposes, if you just read his passives, you know, 30% skill damage, 25% bonus damage is whatever. 50% fire damage is very good, don't get me wrong. That's a really good start, for sure. And then the 10% chain hit is nice, and the 40% ignore dodge is nice, but that's it, right? He's got accumulation like most other characters. He's got the 40% damage buff there. He's got another 35 there, but some people have a 70% damage buff. Some characters like Human Torch and Green Goblin have a 100% damage buff, or attack buff, I should say. So, yeah, it's still really, really good, don't get me wrong, but it's just a bit surprising, and it kind of goes to show that the devs can definitely make a character good if they want the character to be good. As far as his artifact goes, if you guys are wondering, I do think it's nice. He has flame damage increase based on his fire resist, so it does open him up to be used as a leadership a la Thor. He actually has basically the same artifact as Thor, which is really cool. So you can see there he scales 20% of his fire resist as additional fire damage, and then he deals 11% increased damage to villains with a 4-star artifact. And then if we take a look at Thor, it's going to sound very, very similar, because my Thor 4-star artifact increases his lightning damage by 20% of his lightning resist, and then increases his damage to supervillains by 8%. So Hellstorm actually has slightly better numbers, but essentially the same setup, except flopping, switching lightning damage and lightning resist for fire damage and fire resist. And as you can see, his fire resist is actually very high, 77. So then a third of that is being a fifth of that is being converted with a 4-star artifact into more fire damage. So if you, for whatever reason, don't have good enough supports, like if we were to go back to that stage, if you were a newer player for whatever reason, you didn't have Nick Fury, you can actually use his lead, because that 50% flame resist, 20% of that, which is like whatever 12% or 15% or something like that, is going to get converted into fire damage, right? So something to keep in mind there. It does make him a little bit more flexible, a la Thor, and then also means that if you're on a huge budget and you want to give him a good obelisk, but you can't roll something like this. If you rolled something, let's say, that's crit damage fire resist, or flame resist flame damage, it would actually still be good. It wouldn't be as good as flame damage, but it would be sort of the next or the third best thing. So just something to keep in mind if you're looking out for an obelisk for Hellstorm. You do have quite a few options there available to you. While I'm certain he doesn't have the chops to take over Mephisto or Loki or any of these big cats in Universal Male ABX, I am curious to see how he'll perform, given that he has such high burst damage and a relatively high hit count. Now this is still a proc-based build, so it's not going to be as good as Rage and all that good stuff. But keep in mind, especially for Hellstorm, that since he doesn't have a guaranteed crit rate, you would want to give him a competition anyways if you wanted to build him for this content. Not something I'm suggesting that you do, but just something that I would put out there sort of logically for those that were interested in it. Still haven't missed a prop, which I think is pretty crazy. That's my first missed prop. Okay. So he's going to manage about 6 million in the opening rotation. Unfortunately, you can see he doesn't have paralysis anywhere except for his awakening skill and holding the awakening skill until you can cancel the boss is really not going to work. So this is mostly a meme. I recognize that. I think at best he's going to be a nuke for world boss content, maybe GBR, but I don't see him making a real statement, even at tier 4, outside of those 2 pieces of content. So while he might not have a lot of game modes that he's dominant for, he is absolutely a world boss nuke. Check out this damage on stage 69 of Null. 20 bars off the rip like it's nothing. Follows it up with essentially a clincher in sub 15 seconds. This is biblical tier damage for again, a level 70 transcended character. Not something we're used to seeing. The one downside I will say is he does get pushed around by Null a lot, so you do want to, and in particular if you feel that he's getting pushed around by a lot of bosses, you do want to pin yourself against a wall when you start your rotation. We were like, what, a bee's hair away from pushing him to the next phase. Super annoying when that happens. But yeah, you do want to put yourself up against a wall, because that is going to reduce the amount of push. And Hellstorm doesn't have the biggest AoE on his skills, so you are going to want to take advantage of that so that he doesn't get pushed out of his AoE by rapid boss attacks like Null likes to do. Now, he is missing iframe ignore besides his awaken skill, so unless you have that up, you're not going to be able to interfere with bosses during those crucial in-between phases or those like kind of badass cutscenes. But a minute 20 for an obelisk tier 3 70 character or transcended 70 character, I think is quite impressive on stage 69 of Null. This is a pretty high stage for regular, you know, non-level 80, non-tier 4 characters to be walking into. So it is a bit of a bittersweet review, I'd say. I do think Hellstorm is fun to play. I do think he's very proc friendly. I do think he's surprisingly high damage for very low investment, basically just picking up a uniform for a 10-year-old character, and his first ever at that. However, I can't deny the fact that he's really not meta, and he doesn't have any content that is calling his name, at least right now. However, that being said, having damage is a really good start, and if content comes out in the future where he can shine for whatever reason, then we can absolutely take a look at him again in the future. He does have pretty interesting tags, having both Flame and Magic. The only other character having that combination being, I believe... Well, actually, I don't even think Mephisto has that combination. He might be the only character that has that combination. Oh no, him and Satana, of course, right, his sister. But she's been firmly planted as a support, so it's likely that he may be the only character in the game with that combination of tags that can be kind of a burst DPS option for whatever that's worth. Anyways, boys, this is the review for Hellstorm. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching the video. Smash like button if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.